Welcome to the deep dive. You sent us some really interesting stuff, a deep look into the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Yeah, based on the Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster
Right.
specifically.
So today we're digging into their, let's say, unique creation story and how they view, well, pretty much everything.
Exactly. We've got the details on their version of cosmic origins and their specific critique of evolution theory.
Okay.
The mission here is basically to lay out their core beliefs, just as presented in the material you sent, and see how it contrasts with, mainstream science.
Got it. So let's start with the main character, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, or FSM. What are we picturing here?
Okay, so the FSM. Well, you can't really picture him because he's described as invisible and undetectable.
Ah, okay.
But he's made of spaghetti and meatballs, has eye socks, and Pastafarians are clear. He's the only monster he gets capitalized.
He's the monster. Right. So this noodly creator, how does the gospel say things got started, like the timeline?
It puts creation roughly 5,000 years ago, give or take.
5,000.
Okay, started with the basics, light, darkness, then land. But then, interestingly, like almost immediately, a beer volcano.
A beer volcano, seriously. That was early on.
Very early, and that kind of sets the stage for what happens next.
Okay, I feel like there's a story here. What happens after the beer volcano appears?
Well, this is where it gets really distinct. The gospel says the FSM hit the beer volcano hard.
Okay. Indulged a bit.
You could say that. And the subsequent acts of creation, like he apparently created seas and land again.
Wait, again?
Yeah, seems a bit repetitive. And then heaven, which includes a stripper factory.
A stripper factory. In heaven, okay.
And the first humans who were placed in the Olive Garden of Eden. All this is sort of attributed to the FSM being, well, intoxicated.
Right, so a slightly tipsy creator. And this leads to the idea of unintelligent design.
Exactly. UD, unintelligent design, is their explanation for why the world isn't perfect.
Makes sense if the designer was 3 sheets to the wind.
Kind of, yeah. Things like extinctions, how awkward human knees are, the platypus.
The platypus always comes up, doesn't it?
It really does. Even male nipples. These aren't seen as flaws in some grand plan, but just, the outcome of a creator who maybe wasn't thinking entirely straight. The world was kind of cocked up from the beginning, as they put it.
And heaven, with the volcano and the factory, are those meant literally? Like actual places?
That's the understanding, yeah.
Weird.
Tangible rewards. And it also explains why the universe looks billions of years old.
How so?
The FSM deliberately made it look older as a sort of test.
Okay, interesting. Let's switch to evolution. How do Pastafarians view that based on your sources?
Well, the main line is that evolution is only a theory.
Right, the just a theory argument.
Exactly. And their point is, if you're going to teach unproven theories, well, the FSM creation story deserves equal or maybe even more time.
So what about the evidence? Fossils, genetics, all that stuff.
Ah, yes, the fossils. According to Pastafarian belief, that evidence was planted by the FSM. Again, to test people's faith. They even suggest dinosaurs were around with humans maybe 3,000 years ago, something like that.
So the bones are just props.
Essentially. And it's worth noting, this is presented as a pretty direct parody of similar arguments made by other creationist groups.
Okay, so the FSM isn't just creating, he's actively messing with science experiments.
That's the claim. He uses his noodly appendage.
His noodly appendage? Of course. To do what?
To change the results. Radiocardy dating is a key example. If a test shows something is older than 5,000 years...
Noodly appendage interference.
That's the explanation. The FSM personally tweaked the results. Even gravity.
What about gravity?
It's not some force between masses, It's the FSM pushing things down with his appendages.
That's a more direct explanation, I suppose.
They present it as more plausible than an unproven scientific theory. The core idea is all scientific findings are potentially manipulated by the FSM. Test of faith.
Right. Okay, one last big piece from the sources. Pirates, where do they fit in?
Ah, the pirates. This is fascinating. Pastafarians believe humans actually descended from pirates.
Not apes, but pirates.
Correct. They cite apparently 99.9% shared DNA with pirates versus only like 95% with primates.
I see. And these were not your typical Armady pirates?
No. The original pirates, according to the gospel, were peace-loving explorers and spreaders of goodwill. They were the first Pastafarians.
So wearing the colander, or the pirate hat, that's religious garb.
It's an act of religious observance, yes. And there's more evidence they point to.
Oh.
The inverse correlation between the number of pirates globally and global temperatures.
Fewer pirates, higher temperature.
Exactly. Presented as proof of their sacred importance.
Wow. Okay. So let's just quickly recap. We've got a universe created maybe 5,000 years ago by an often tipsy flying spaghetti monster
Check. Complete with beer volcanoes.
who uses unintelligent design, rejects evolution by planting fake fossils, and tweaking scientific results with his noodly appendage.
All is a test of faith, yeah.
And humans are descended from peaceful, climate-controlling pirates.
That pretty much sums up the core tenets as laid out in the material we looked at. It's definitely a coherent alternative worldview.
It certainly is. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What if the creator wasn't, aiming for perfection? What if they were just winging it, maybe after a few beers? How does that change how you look at flaws or even successes in the world? Something to noodle on.
Definitely food for thought.
It
Or maybe pasta for thought.
Good one. Well, thanks for diving into this with us.